feeling so small. Watch the clock ticking off the wall. But tonight I'm letting it go. Spend my coin for sure. I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now.
Hi everyone, welcome. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. If you're my Peterson subscribers, welcome back guys. I'm so happy to have you again. So for today's video, we're going to focus on specifically the Ukraine tensions and between Russia and Ukraine and NATO. Particularly, this video may be broken up into two separate videos. It will be one main live that's going to be broken and split into two later on. So there's going to be a little bit of discrepancy, but please keep in mind I will put in the description the link to this other video, which is today's live. If you're watching it live, it's going to be all in one. If you're watching this on replay, it will be two separate videos broken in half. Now, the reason for this is that I took some valuable feedback from all of you guys. If you have not already, please go to the community section and vote so I can be able to help improve the channel to make better content for you guys specifically. So I have received a lot of your feedback, and a lot of you said that a lot of my videos were too long. So I have decided to make the videos just as long as I normally do, but I will break them by editing and break them into two separate parts. And so in today's video, you can always check in the description about what I'll be covering. I will always let you guys know that this video that you're watching right now, and hello part two. And anyway, besides the point, let's jump into it. This is being live streamed on February 7, 2021 at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And here are some quick disclaimers on your screen right now, of course. If you have not already, check out part number 2. Or if you have not already and you're watching part number 2, definitely check out part number 1, as it will help you understand what today's video is all about. And here is as well as the last disclaimer on your screen. Let me say hello. Hi, Paula. Hi, Sarah. What's up, love? All right, so before we do begin in today's video, there needs to be a valuable education and understand about what is the situation on the border of Ukraine. In order for us to read on it, I need to provide you with valuable background so that I am reading, you're not confused and not able to understand and comprehend what it is that I'm trying to tell you in today's reading. So let's take a look. Again, this source, it will be linked in the description below. It's by CNN. Okay, so I'm going to read it to you. 100,000 Russian troops have remained in the Ukraine border despite warning from the United States President Joe Biden and European leaders of serious consequences that follow if Putin pressed forward with an invasion. Lately, I have been feeling for a while now that potentially this could lead to a world war, which is why I jumped on today to do this once I saw it on Twitter. The U.S. intelligence findings in December estimates that Russia could begin a military offensive in Ukraine as early 2022. So you can clearly tell this article was written way later before February or January. In late 2021, satellites photos reveal Russian hardware, including self-propelled guns, battle tanks, and infantry fighting vehicles on the move at a training ground roughly 186 miles, 300 kilometers from the border. After 3 rounds of diplomatic talk between Russia and the West aimed at de-escalating the crisis to produce a resolution, failed to produce a resolution, Russia has now deployed more than 127,000 troops near the Ukraine border, including some 21,000 air and sea personnel, transferred more Islanders operational tactic missiles to the border, and increased its intelligence activity against the country, which is Ukraine. Russia's defense military has said it's conducting regular winter military drills on a southern region, part of which borders Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukraine's eastern regions, those two regions there, bordering Russia, has been under the control of Russian-backed separatists since 2014. Russian forces are also present in the area referred to Ukraine by as temporary occupied territories, basically meaning that Russia is temporarily holding on to those territories. Very similar to the way that just say Canada was to invade the United States, they would hold the state of Maine and Washington for some random reason. But yet, those are just be temporary occupied territories as they have not won those land pieces, so therefore they're just temporary occupants. The front lines of the conflict have barely moved in 5 years. Russia also has forces numbering thousands or more at the massive naval base in Crimea, what they had took from the Ukrainian territory and annexed in 2014. And the source is CNN. So that is a little bit of a background story. I kind of took the most important parts and capitulated it to kind of give you an understanding about what is going on in the Ukrainian border. Way down feeling. Okay, next question is, what's the real motive as to why Russia is stepping onto Ukraine? This might give us a little bit more understanding why Putin feels the way he does. Okay, so we have the Ace of Swords here. And Ace of Swords kind of talks about getting rid of the status quo and replacing it with something brand new. It could also mean oligarchy in this regard. What's in Russia? Russia is an oligarch. And so it will make a lot of sense for what's occurring in Russia, right? We're talking about the energy here. Control, energy, replacing the status quo with something new. That could simply be taking over a country or a nation and replacing it with your version of the status quo. We have here as well, on the left side here, we have the Queen of Swords, right? This is the big, great old nation. It's the card that represents Soviet Russia. And this is a big old nation that had a massive control over many parts and many regions, over many tribes and different dialects, many different regions of different kinds of people across the world. And it does feel like there's some resemblance, some understanding, kind of similar to the way the British would look upon their own empire and say, the good old days. That type of energy, what I sense here. That's why the card is reversed, because it's in the past, the country fell. Underneath this Ace of Swords here is we have a looming economic crisis coming in Russia. Potentially, Russia trying to help their country by saying, well, listen, you can't blame the president. The president trying to get you jobs, trying to get you money, trying to get you food on your table. And it feels like Russia is about to enter a very bad time period of economic trouble. And that is why, the United States and Europe putting pressure, sanctions on Russia will actually alleviate any sort of tension between Russia and Ukraine. Because Russia is about to have an economic crisis, potentially a Great Depression. We have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The Eight of Swords reversed. What I kind of feel like, it looks like, if you were to look at it this way, it looks like missiles coming down and coming into Earth, shooting down at an angle. This is reversed. And what it kind of tells me here is that this is kind of like a blockade. They're trying to block what's ever occurring. But now that I'm looking at it, if you look at the black spots here, right? And you see the orange hue that comes out from these branches, it kind of looks like airplanes shooting into the sky. And I feel like there's airplanes. Maybe there's some area of war. Maybe they want a war in the air. Potentially, that could be what this means. We also have here as well, though, they do want conflict. Even though Russia, like I said, wants to be handed it, he will do whatever is necessary, even if that means war. However, they are contemplating as well, is it really worth going through all this trouble just for a small piece of land? Right? And then we have the Devil card. It won't go in their favor. It won't go in their favor. They won't be able to lock down Ukraine. They might be able to take majority of it, but they will not be able to lock down Ukraine. If anything, if Ukraine was to go into war, a lot of Europe will have to be dragged in, because that means if Russia wants Ukraine, Russia wants everything with Ukraine. That means China, Russia, not China, but they want Belarus, they want Luxembourg, they want France, Ukraine, Germany, they want all the countries in Europe. Remember, they want to expand where they were prior. Now, will Ukraine cause World War III? I talked about this earlier. I talked about the energy being very symbolic here, but let's ask the specific question. Will Ukraine conflict or crisis cause a world war? It would be very devastating if we have one. We have the Knight of Cups here. And match reverse, this is my Biden card. It will not occur under President Biden. So you can rest assured that we have a couple of more years, at least 3 more years. But this reverse. And what it kind of tells me here is not going to be based on emotion. So you won't feel it in terms of emotional, but you will feel it based on military defeat. But it almost feels like in some way, if there was a world war that was to occur, it will be more than two countries that had already fell. So, for example, if the World War III was to break out from Ukraine, it would have to have two other countries that have already fell to Russia or to NATO, right? And it will cause an all-out war. We have the Tower card. No, not right now. It will not cause a world war. I feel like people are already, even Russia does not want a world war. It will not be in their best interest. Right? We have here, don't get confused. Just because you see it on the news media does not mean you need to be worried. So no, there won't be a world war. It's just right now it feels like there's just tension, and it feels like babies playing with firecrackers. What the best word to use here? It feels like little children who don't know how to express their emotions or communicate properly, playing with fire. That's what this is. However, none of those three kids want to get in trouble. That's what I'm feeling here. Okay, will Ukraine be invaded? Is it by Russia or is it by Belarus? Let's take a look. Will Ukraine be invaded? Okay, the Knight of Cups. Yes, Ukraine will be invaded. Right, we have here the Corps marching in with all the military might. They're going to come in, march in, they're going to take Ukraine. Yes, Ukraine will be invaded. That could potentially be what answered the previous question, will Ukraine cause World War III, which had two countries already down, which means it's exactly very similar to the timeline of 1930s, where we had European powers like Britain and France allowing Germany to take over Czechoslovakia, and then Austria, and then saying that if you take over one more nation like Poland, for example, we're gonna start World War II. And it's very similar to the same energy here, that maybe Russia is stepping and testing the powers in the water, and potentially it could mean that one of the countries step in, take it over, and then they're the problem because now they're trying to test the limit of how far they can pass the boundaries before getting in trouble or experiencing the consequences. Okay, so now that we know Ukraine won't be invaded, is it by Russia or Belarus? Okay, so here's for entertainment purposes only. We have the Page of Pentacles. Now, this is just one timeline. I'm not saying it's going to happen, right? It's just the energies as of now. Right now, the energies are crazy. It's very chaotic. The energy could change overnight. So don't worry. I'd rather be wrong about this than be right. You know what I mean? So here we have the Page of Pentacles. And the Page of Pentacles, the first name that came to me was Belarus. Belarus, I've seen a situation here where Russia, Vladimir Putin, decides to not invade Ukraine because of sanctions. However, I sense here that Belarus, who might get very angry at Russia for almost like in one way or some form, betraying Belarus, and Belarus dictator will march down and take over Ukraine. And it feels like in some way there's like a power struggle. Now, this could be a brand new power on the west side of Russia, which I'm going to show you a picture now to so you have a little bit of an idea what we're talking about here. Right? We have here, you see Belarus is right above Ukraine. Belarus can come down and take over at least the Russian half of Ukraine. Right? Any parts that are in red right now are annexed by Russia. Right? Then on the right side, where Dunkirk is and Lukansk, I think I'm saying that right. Russia back controls separatist area, which is basically patrolled by Russia. Right now, if you have not already, remember we have President Joe Biden on the left side here, and then we have Vladimir Putin on the right. So anyway, in case you forgot what those guys look like. So now we know it's going to be by Belarus. Belarus is going to be the one who's going to pursue it out of anger. Okay, so does it have to do with a dream of reforming the USSR, the Soviet Union? If so, will he be successful? Let's take a look. Well, what's occurring in Ukraine? Does it have to do with Vladimir Putin's dream of reforming the Soviet Union? Now, I had talked about this many times on my channel a year ago, where I talked about the reformation of the Soviet Union, the resurrection. Okay. Okay, so we have the Eight of Wands here. The Eight of Wands here kind of is in the air. That's what I feel like, it's just in the air. right? Will it be, and does it have to do with the dream that the Soviet Union is in the air, right? We're talking about a dream here. The dream is in the air, right? It's not something that's saturated in reality. We have here is we have the Three of Wands reversed. And this is kind of like looking at the ruin, the destruction. It's not the end of a destruction. You know, Rome was not built in one day, but Rome was destroyed in a day. You know what I mean? It almost like it feels like they cannot believe that what they have built destroyed that easily, right? Maybe they should have talked about having insurance with Geico. Maybe the Union would be here if they had Geico. We have the Five of Pentacles reversed. And what I'm sensing here is that, again, economic troubles and economic upheaval, right? I do feel like maybe they can make a viable case for what's occurring in Russia. If they have an economic crisis, they can say, listen, well, you're better off now than you were under the Soviet Union. Very similar to Ronald Reagan talking to the people and saying, well, you're better off 4 years ago under Jimmy Carter, or will you be better off now? You know what I mean? That's the energy that it feels like. It almost feels like they're talking to the people, understanding them on a level that they never been talked to before. On the right side here is with the Four of Pentacles card here. Will he be successful? It's possible. He can kind of almost feel like in some way, he can reform some parts of it. He won't get all the land back, but he will reform it in some way. And potentially he can reform it in his image instead, but he won't have all the land. I don't see it will be the full Soviet Union. I just see maybe he might get Ukraine back. He might get Belarus back. Excuse me, I have a hiccup. And he might get a few other nations, but he won't get a lot back. So what does it mean with the United States weakening power at home? What is caused by Russia to make the United States pull out of the war? Declare defeat if one was to occur. So basically what this means is, and the reason why I added the question is what if you were a mastermind and you wanted a country to pull out of war, what's the best solution to make a country pull out of war? Basically, best luck is no further than Russia. During World War I, Russia was starting to undergo a Russian Revolution, which ended up causing by Vladimir Lenin to put in and install a government, a revolution of communism with Karl Marx. And so basically what this means is that I'm asking, will this be a distraction at home, the distraction and all the problem that's here in the United States? Is that going to be enough of a problem that if war was to break out on the Ukrainian border, will the United States have to withdraw its troops and start putting attention back here in the United States and resorting their resources that would have been in Ukraine here in the United States? That's the question I'm asking, just to make sure I clarify that so you're not confused. If you are confused, please put them in the live chat. Okay, exactly what I said, Spirits and Angels. Can you answer that? What the problem that in the United States, is that going to be an issue if a war breaks out in Ukraine? Will the United States have to pull out troops? Now remember, America is undergoing political return, which is very possible that is occurring. Okay, so we have here then this. We have the four stories here. We have here the presidency of Donald Trump. Right, we have the presidency of Donald Trump has insinuated problems in the United States that we have not yet understood why they occurred. We understand it on a sub level, but we haven't really understood the root of the problem quite yet. Right, we have the three stories on the wall there, but we have one sword being crossed by the person. This has two symbolic meaning, at least in this particular reading. The three of swords could very well symbolize here. It could symbolize those 3 years under Donald Trump were more simple, but yet they were complex, but yet simple. We didn't really have that much of an issue. It kind of felt like the normalcy. But that 1 year, the last year of Donald Trump's presidency, which is in gold, could very well symbolize the chaos that had ensued within the United States during the presidential election and prior to that election as well. That could be what that gold sword means. The other interpretation here of the Three of Swords here, that means we have more chaotic energy within those 3 first years, and the fourth sword, which is in gold, could easily symbolize that we're not yet completed. The United States problems are not over, and that this is just the beginning. We have here as well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of cups reversed. We have this dude crossing his hand over, right? We're asking whether or not the problem at home in the United States will be ignored. Whether or not that was a plan all along to maybe get the United States to pull out and resort their resources back in the United States. I feel like because the United States problems are so relevant, yet there's so much data information on why it occurred in the first place, that there's going to be attention to why it occurred. So it's not a no-brainer that we don't know why it's happening. We do. We know the cause of the problem. And so the thing is here, it does feel like it's going to have to be addressed because it's been highlighted in American history. It's been highlighted in front of our eyes. We have the Nine of Pentacles here. You have the Nine of Pentacles, right? And then we have the bird here. The bird symbolizes the eagle, the strength, the nonchalant energy, right? America is here right now. We're starting to focus on problems that's occurring. But what this card symbolizes Lady Liberty, what it means to be an American, right? That is what this card symbolizes. The final card here is no. It will not cause the United States to pull out. Because of this one card here. This card symbolizes attention at home. We're going to put our attention at home. And because of it, we're going to resolve it enough and mellow it out so that this doesn't become a reality. That's why the card is reversed. Yeah, no, the card, it's not, even if they fund it, even if Russia fund problems in the United States, it won't manifest because we already have it under control. We already have our ideas. We already know what's occurring and how it's going to occur. We know the plan. We know how to trigger an American. If you want to trigger any American in the South, you insult them with the Bible, or you insult them with Black people. It's one or the other. And so it's pretty obvious and very straightforward. It's not as complex as other countries. Now, for example, does Donald Trump being president from 2017 to 2021 have anything to do with what's occurring in Russia? Yes, we do. So let's take a look. We kind of answered that before, but let's get a more definitive answer. Okay, so if you have jumped in and you're just watching this video will be broken into 2 parts. This is part 2 that you are watching right now. You can check the description below for part 1 or for other timestamps as well. All right, so we have here in reverse here, we have the Judgment card. The Judgment card is reversed because what this symbolizes here, it symbolizes a birth of recollection. It symbolizes here is that the horn, the whispers, it feels like it's a wake-up call in some way that when Donald Trump won the presidency, it was a wake-up call for the United States, right? People were asleep, right? That's why this card is reversed. We have here during Donald Trump's presidency, who ruled with an iron fist in some aspects. We have the Empress card. An Empress card kind of shows the femininity, the feminine side, the soft side. And I'm not saying Donald Trump rules with this. He did not in any manners or any way. But Russia rules like this. This is the Russian card. This is the card that represents Mother Russia. Right? And so the card that just shows up here in the reading asking if Donald Trump being president from 2017 to 2021 have anything to do with what's occurring in Russia right now with Ukraine, it does. It does have something to do with that. And it has to do with the presidency, him leaving office, because potentially now they lost control of the presidency, was now kind of put Vladimir Putin plan in AWOL, and problematic. And it feels like maybe in an alternate scenario, Russia would have gotten in Ukraine. But in our timeline, Ukraine is still part of Ukraine. And so it almost feels like because Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, it put the plan into very problematic means. We have here as well at the bottom of the card, we have here the Knight of Cups. Now, if you have watched my previous reading, we asked whether or not Ukraine is going to be invaded. And the card was yes. And this card came out. So yes, this does have to do with the invasion of Ukraine and the timeline in which it would have happened had Donald Trump been president. So if in the alternate timeline, you ever wonder what would have happened had Donald Trump been president, or one of the scenarios is Ukraine would have been part of Russia. Thank you, Paul. I'm glad you like it. Much love to you. Okay, so this is our last question for today's video. Okay. America is finally at peace from war in August. Will it find itself back at war? And a fun fact about the United States, America has been at war for 93% of its entire existence, with only 7 years of peacetime since 1776. So if you ever wanted to win a trivia, that's what you need to know. America had never been at peace for only less than 2 decades. So if they ask you, how long has America been at peace? You say less than 2 decades. Because that is true. America's only been at peace for 17 years. And for 93% of its entire existence, America's been at war. So it will be obvious. And the reason why I added this particular fact in is so if I ask the question, you're not fearful and saying, oh my God, the United States is going to be at war. When in reality, we've always been at war. My life, your life, the grandparents' life had experienced a time period in when the United States was at war, right? For the majority of our lives, too, right? This is the first time actually in my life that I'm actually experiencing peace in the United States. And it's only been a couple of months. Okay, so Spirit Angel tell me, is America finally at peace from war in August? Will it find itself back at war? And this is kind of like giving us an answer if potentially we're okay. I think this would be enough of an explanation here. We have the sick here, we have the guy fighting. Potentially, it is possible for two scenarios. The possible for the United States to find itself back at war. That's not a surprise. I mean, look at American history. But it also very well means that this could be the age of America. What's the best way to put it? It could be an era, a new change where Americans are starting to riot against their own government, so to speak, against the idea of we're going to war. Very similar to what we saw with Richard Nixon and Vietnam. It could be very well a scenario like that. So that is what I see for today's video. I do hope you guys liked today's video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, a like, and don't forget to hit the description button. I do hope you guys enjoyed today's video and today's interpretation. Other than that, thank you all for joining me, and you can rest assured that we're going to be okay, that we're going to be fine. I hope you like today's interpretation. Anyway, don't forget to share this video with other people. I love you and hope you have a very beautiful night. Thank you for tuning in. Bye, everybody.